Why didn't you sign that listing? And how can you make sure every home tour turns into a signed listing agreement? In this video, we're going to go over how you can nail your first impression, discuss needed upgrades, and build rapport before even sitting down to discuss with the sellers.
Follow this strategy and you'll confidently set clear expectations with your sellers. They'll follow your guidance when it comes to how to prep their home for the market. And most importantly, you'll build trust with them before you even sit down to talk about price and promotional plan.
This video is part 1 of our listing appointment training. Don't worry, we put a link to the second video at the end, what to do when you're actually sitting down in front of your potential sellers.
But don't jump ahead. First, watch this video and learn how to master that first impression right when you walk through the door.
Inside of a potential seller's home. Congratulations, you've set the appointment, and now how do you conduct yourself once you're standing in their home? There are a few tips and tricks that we like to focus on to make the absolute best of your time with the seller before you even sit down to go over the paperwork.
This walk is all about setting expectations and preparing the seller to execute on the things that you know will help sell the home for the most amount of money possible. You're also demonstrating your value by giving them tips on some smart upgrades that will help to increase their home's appeal.
So get started by setting the tone for the tour. You want to have enough time to go through the paperwork, so be mindful of how long you're spending in each room, and we'll go over some things to point out along the way. But realistically, I like to start in the main area, get down to the basement, go upstairs, and ideally land where I'm going to be sitting down and actually talking with the potential sellers.
That's right, and it's important that you do cover all parts of the home, but you don't need to go into extensive detail. So for example, in this room, we'll talk about its overall use and the appeal to buyers. And I'll explain how we're always trying to appeal to the center of the bell curve, to the most buyers possible. I would address things like the wallpaper that is a little bit taste specific, and that changing it to a more natural paint color will be more appealing to more buyers. I'll also just look around quickly, do like a quick head-to-toe scan for any type of obvious safety or structural issues. In a room, sometimes you'll notice an outlet that's burnt out. You want to make sure you call those things out and make sure they get fixed before you're even on the market.
As we go through the home, I'm going to be looking for easy things that I know a seller can handle. There's of course going to be the bigger projects, but I don't want to turn them off by bombarding them with a list of things to do. Easy things could be removing an ottoman from a room to make the space seem larger, or if something has been converted to a bedroom but could also be used as a living room and the house doesn't currently have a living room, it might be best to have that area set up for its best purpose.
That's right, and we want to make sure that the advice that we give is simple whenever possible. I found it to be helpful to call on a third party, like a professional stager, to come in and give a report and give some advice as well. We have great relationships with stagers that will come in for a couple $100s and do a walkthrough and give tips on everything from furniture and its current placement to paint color to potential remodels. I always make sure that I tell sellers ahead of time that we'll go through that report together and we'll identify what items on there are coulds and what are shoulds. We don't necessarily need to do everything that the stager is recommending, but it's really helpful to have a third party's perspective. That not only brings the heat off of you as an agent, but it also gives support to the suggestions that you're giving. Let's take a look outside.
So a seller's going to lead with what they know. They're going to share information about updates they've done, projects that they have that they want to do, haven't gotten to yet, and they're also going to bring in some emotional aspects to the tour. I want to focus on potential issues. So I'm looking to see if there's any rot along the bottom of the siding, which is typical maintenance for wood siding. When the water splashes up against a hard surface, you're going to see some typical wear and tear. I'm looking to see if there's any other noticeable water intrusion, if there's something that could be an easy fix, or also something that I know is going to come up in an inspection report, like gutter extensions, cleaning out gutters that have clearly backed up, a small stone that's unsettled in a walkway that people are going to notice in their first walk up to the door. You don't want to turn away a potential buyer before they even get inside your house. So curb appeal, what are they going to see when they first pull up? At this particular property, there's 2 different entrances, and you want to make sure both are looking their best. You can do a fresh layer of mulch. Again, these are easy suggestions that aren't going to be super overwhelming for a seller, but things that they might be thinking are on the bottom of their to-do list.
It really helps to bring that buyer perspective into the tour with the seller. And we want to get them to see things through that buyer's eyes. Now, one thing that you may have noticed about this property is there is some traffic noise. We're on a busier road. We want to make sure that we do address this. I don't shy away from the difficult situations and the challenges of the property. I want to make sure that I address the busier road so that way when I sit down and talk valuation with them, they understand why there's a 5 or 10% reduction in the price for condition appeal. From a buyer perspective, I'm also going to look at things like the roof and make sure that it looks nice and clean and fresh. It's amazing how a simple clean can improve a 20-year-old roof and make it look significantly more. I always make sure to spend time in the basement looking at the mechanicals. I want to check out the age, the service history, and make recommendations like getting an HVAC unit service if it hasn't been in the last couple of years. I'd rather have that record ahead of time than have somebody question the fact that it's been 3, 4, or 5 years without the unit getting any attention. I'll spend time looking at oil tanks. I'll do a quick wipe on the bottom to see if there's any rust. I'm just looking for some of the most alarming common problems that could come up on a home inspection.
Another thing to note is what type of condition is the property in that you're standing in? Is it in a serious state of disarray where you know the inspection report is going to be quite lengthy? Is it an older home? Are all of the mechanicals towards the end of their lifespan? There's a few different approaches here. You could suggest a pre-listing home inspection for a seller. To get ahead of those lists that are going to be on the report, they can decide to tackle the top 3 things and understand that the rest is a little bit more maintenance heavy. Having that information ahead of time can be a huge benefit if your seller is able to tackle some projects. You don't want to go down that path if your seller is looking for an as-is, no stress, no nonsense sale, and they do not have the time, money, or capability of diving into that further.
That's right. If that's the case, if they don't have the money or interest in fixing issues, you just simply fix that problem through price. You obviously would not list a home that has some mechanical deficiencies as high as one that does not. The first place we go upstairs is the primary suite. This is one of the places that matters most to sellers. It's important that we look at every single room, but we want to make sure we spend time in here and talk about things like ease of use, functionality of the space itself. So for example, if you have big bulky furniture, taking a dresser or something like that out of the space.
A huge point to remember, you are in the most personal space of a potential seller's home. This is where they are going to feel most vulnerable. If you're talking about their poor decision of pillows, that is not necessarily the time. Make sure we just came from the basement where the mechanicals are. We might have had a few daunting conversations down there. I like to make sure this is still uplifting and they're still excited to talk to me. So I might point out a personal choice they've made in design, which no, does not quite have a direct correlation with the value of their home, but it's gonna make them feel good along the way. I wanna make sure that they know that I genuinely care about them and their success. I'll applaud their choices in fixtures and certain design choices if they've done updating along the way. This is an attached primary bathroom. Amazing, freshly updated. I want to highlight the fact that they did a really wonderful job making that choice. As you're going around the home, it's important to take mental notes and actual notes. I let the seller know right when we come in that I'm going to be taking notes on my phone and ask permission to take a couple photos if necessary. When you're going through the walking tour, you're focused on what you're saying and how you're responding to the seller. Make sure that you're going to remember some details later on when you're actually sitting down to complete a new valuation if you haven't been to the house before.
In this bathroom, the seller's made some smart and expensive updates. I can tell that this is an older vanity that they painted to look modern and white, and they put some new knobs and hardware on here. It looks like they also made some upgrades to the faucets and the mirrors. These are all inexpensive little tricks that can help increase the desirability of the home overall.
If you enter a room that has questionable design choices, it's important to come from a place of advice and care for success in the sale of their home. This is a 4th bedroom set up as an office. Is this the highest and best use of this room? Does it look quite small with this huge desk in here? Yes.
I would either take the desk out altogether or remove these sections and just maybe have this one. In a perfect world, you get a bed in here. An easy trick that I've used when flipping houses is putting a mattress on top of boxes to stage it and make it look like a bed. Even if you didn't have end tables in here, but you had that, you could at least show people where the bed would go in this room. You'd be amazed how little vision buyers have for space.
rooms that have held parties and family events and friendly entertaining, I like to make a point to acknowledge that we're not only helping a potential seller transition into the next part of their life, but we're acknowledging and respecting the memories that are held in this current home. The kitchen is one of the best areas to have the biggest impact on presentation. Clear countertops, the front of the fridge clear of magnets, photos, things like that. We've gone throughout the home, we've touched on decluttering and maximizing the use of space. And the kitchen is really gonna be one of the best impressions you can make on a buyer. They're going to love the fact that it's an open concept area. They wanna picture themselves in there preparing food and entertaining.
Be mindful of the fact that we've just toured through the house, given them a lot of feedback on a lot of different areas that they could improve. We want to acknowledge the fact that it's a lot of work. They're also thinking about packing and moving and getting their stuff out of here in addition to what we have. Also, we've kind of held back on the thing that they care about most, which is their home's value. So an easy way to transition is to sit down at the table and say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, what I'd like to do next is talk about the 3 things that most sellers care about. How much is my house worth? How quickly will it sell? And what do I need to do to prepare for a sale? The third one, we've already addressed through that walkthrough that we did. We can take some time and go through and make a must, should, and could list out of that information, or we can just talk about that another time. At this point, I'd like to dive into the market itself and educate you on what's going on locally in your market right here. In order to do that, we have a lot of paperwork that we bring with us. We have market graphs, we have comparative market analysis, home seller guides, graphics about steps to sell, listing paperwork explained, documentation that's required to list properties, and sometimes I even bring the disclosures with me.
The best case scenario is to leave your listing presentation with a representation agreement signed. Now, how do you do that? It's how you present this information and how you present the value that you're going to bring to their transaction. And we go over that in other trainings as well. Have you ever gone through a full listing presentation, home tour, and still not earned that listing? It might be because the data you're bringing, the market analysis you have handy, and the value proposition that you bring to a seller's transaction is just not enough, or you just don't know what to bring. We offer trainings on every aspect of the preparation and in-person process to earning a listing.
I've talked to so many agents who've missed out on listings from friends and family members, and it's often a result of them not taking the appointment seriously enough or just generally not knowing how to do the job. We pride ourselves in helping agents take more listings at higher commission rates.
And we also systematize the process so it's recreatable. Anytime something has gone wrong in a transaction, you can usually trace it back to missing a step in your process. Even if somebody has sold 5 homes in their lifetime and they think that they know everything, I will still go through every step of the process and presentation because I want to at least know that I have covered everything on my end.
We have the tools, systems, and mentorship to help you achieve every goal you have in your real estate business. Whether it's scaling your personal production, building multiple teams like we have, buying rental properties, flipping homes, doing development deals, or building short-term rentals in the Bahamas, we've done it all.
At Reinvest, we are committed to getting agents from production to legacy.
At Reinvest, we're creating new trainings all the time as the market continues to shift. If you're interested in more information about our community, hit the link below.